this video, we're going to focus on the functionality of outside purchase returns and some tips on what I believe will make the process a little bit more efficient, a little bit easier on the overall function. For starters, I like to go to the desktop and I open up the Vast Reporting main menu. From the Vast Reporting main menu, if you click on Inventory at the top, then click on Outside Purchases Not Returned or Applied. This is a report that I recommend running nearly on a daily basis to keep track of all of the star parts or all of the outside purchases that you received that either have not been sold on a customer's ticket, maybe they're on an open work order still, or maybe they were bought, received, and then deleted off of the customer's ticket because they were either defective or the wrong part or the customer just simply declined it. So I like to run this report on a daily basis. I'm going to go ahead and open up my date range a little bit here so I've got plenty of information. And as I open up this report, I focus solely on the star parts, the asterisk parts only. And the reason for that is because a star part is something that cannot be put back on your shelf and tracked as an inventoried item that you could sell again to a different customer in the future. So anytime that you buy a star part or an outside purchase part that is not on your master table, if that part does not get sold to a customer and it is removed from a work order, essentially it needs to go through the return process. Whereas if you had purchased, say, a stocking filter, maybe you just ran out of a particular filter and you needed to purchase more of them. If it was a part that was on your master table and you ordered it, received it, and then for some reason deleted it off of a customer's repair order prior to invoicing, if it was a part that was on the master table, it would just increase the quantity of those filters that you have on hand at your local store, and it could be subsequently sold to another customer or potentially returned. But for that reason, I focus on star parts only. Obviously, you've got the ability to narrow this down by specific suppliers or specific sales classes. In this instance, I'm going to leave everything else selected, and of course, I've got the show details as a default selection. And I'm going to run this report. You'll see that when the report is generated, let me widen the screen here a little bit, that we have some really great information that, as you can imagine, will make the process of doing the outside purchase return much easier. The reason for that is that you can see here, I'm starting off with the vendor from Advance. So I know the vendor. I know the outside purchase order number. I know the date that the purchase order was created, and I see the part number here. I see all of the detailed information, the vendor invoice that the part came in on. And more importantly, here I can see the VAST estimate or invoice number are both zeros, meaning that that part was purchased from Advanced. It was received on invoice number 345345345 on 4/1 of 2020, and it was never sold. So I should be expecting to return that part and get credit from the supplier. Now, another reason that this report is important is because if I ran this, I could see not only if this part was still sitting on an open estimate. As I scroll down through the list, here's an example of what you would see if it's on an open estimate. Here's an air conditioning accessory drive belt that was purchased on 3/1 of 2021. Here's the invoice number, still from Advance, and it says that it's just sitting on an open estimate, which means it hasn't been invoiced out yet. Now I realize that that was just from yesterday, but as you can imagine, if this was a week or 2 or 3 weeks old, I'd want to be asking some questions as to why did we purchase this belt and why has it not yet been invoiced out, and should we send it back for credit? Now, I don't like to close any outside purchases until I actually have the credit in my hand from the supplier. So, you may see some instances where the estimate number and invoice number are both zeros, and it still shows up on this report. Well, again, it's possible that you have a handwritten slip from the supplier where they've picked up the part, they've returned it to the supplier, but maybe you just have not either gotten the credit yet or the credit has not yet been entered in. But at least it kind of promotes you following up on that to find out what the status is and get your credits applied. So in this instance, I'm going to focus on page 1 of this report, and I'm going to look at returning this serpentine belt here, KO50402. So again, having this report either printed out in my hand or just open on the screen is going to make the process much easier. So for starters, I'm going to open up VAST Point of Sale, go to Inventory Management, and go to Outside Purchase Returns and Parts. Now, I know already that the vendor that I'm working with is Advance, so I might as well type in AD, hit F1, and choose Advance Auto Parts. Obviously, I'll select my name. Now that I've got Advance Auto Parts and my name in there, I simply click on Add. Now, it always defaults to showing me the last 7 days, the outside purchases. But another reason, here's the example of why I like having the report in my hand, is because I know that I could go to this very specific date of 4/1 of 2020, and I know my outside purchase order number was 82. So let me go to a specific date. I'll go back to 4/1 of 2020, and here I see it automatically stripped it down to just outside purchases from Advance on that very specific day, and you can easily see the PO number and the invoice number that match that of the PO and invoice number on that report. Now I will select this, and it shows me 2 different part numbers, and this is very important also to pay attention to the estimate number being 0. This tells me that these parts were ordered and received and then deleted off of a repair order. There is no estimate number associated with these 2 part numbers. So essentially, I would want to perform a return on both of those. If I go back to my report, as you can see here, I have both of them listed as PO or outside purchase number 82. Both part numbers and all the information. So I can highlight both of these items simply by holding the control key down on my keyboard. It allows me to highlight multiple items on that PO for return. I will hit select. It transferred both parts over to the outside purchase return screen. I can identify if they were defective or not. I could adjust the return price. If you are not getting the full value on the return, if they're charging you a restocking fee or something like that, and you have the actual credit slip in your hand, you can adjust the pricing if needed. Obviously, the end goal would that we would want the return total here in the lower left-hand corner to match that of the return from the supplier being Advanced. Now, I'm going to assume that they're giving me full credit on both of these items. I would put in the credit invoice number from Advance, put in today's date or the date that you received the credit, and the dollar amount that you received from them. Again, I would hope that it's $90.98 so that it matches up. We see here, you could highlight individual items, show a serpentine belt for $21.99 and the water pump for $68.99. If everything here is good, I would suggest printing this possibly for your records. Again, it's nice to be able to have the original document where the part was received, maybe the handwritten slip where the driver picked up the part to return it to Advance, and then the actual credit that you received from the supplier all stapled together with the outside purchase return. So you have a full audit trail of the documents. So I could print that if I'd like. Obviously, you'd see the standard outside purchase return, and I will click Done. Now, if I go back to my outside purchase return report and refresh the screen, you will see that PO number 82, let me rerun this, and we should see that PO number 82 is no longer on our list. So it very quickly and easily has cleaned up any outside purchases that need to be returned. Hopefully this helps explain the process a little bit, makes it a little bit easier for you. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know.